Dear Lord in heaven, we are just seeking your help as we endeavor to send the family message to the nation. We know that you have great plans for our families. And we just pray that the message that we will be hearing today will be censored by you so that those who hear may find insight into what marriage is all about. This is our prayer as we pray for the equipment and everything that we do today. We concern because you are leading. Thank you very much for hearing our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Ayon, the Bagandai, we are Maurung where Koronida on Ope Radio FM 89 or on the Ope channel. Kiribasin on the Bagandaya. Yea, the Takora, Rakankain and the Bagandaya, and the Dawasan, what Katano, the Dutana, the German, and bring up on it. Ayo, put the Meroro and Kakao, Carissa, Rita Gay Marirua, Erinet, Pasta Duana. I am under in a Tetanico on Kaekaaia and Sisakinape on Payaki to Gidiki and the mountain. Tawayo the issue to one and a Giburan kind of best. Tranding of Bangoya Goran, the Banan Ope Radio FM 89, Konan Nangam Sisirak Sinan from the Yarano by Benedict the presentation, Sinangan with the Sirak, Kokonan Nangam Sisirak in upon past the Duana or past the Duana, Yakonan Pangan, Kabara, Bondai Pangan, Anateka, Ibukimi Gamera Campaign and other attack, I don't other station and past the top or Bondona Pankai, Takatan, and Noriana Pankai. Inanon de ting nga po ngayon. Ay, panaran kami ulit na ko yung mandata pa na kamunguray on mata ko yon Ope Radio FM 89. Ari ita pa yamew na pangayin data yayo o yon na para live yon na Facebook kani Adventist Hope o yon na para YouTube channel ani Ope channel kiripas. Ay sinang wak kurara pa sina tawroy ng ng wak data yayo ay yang ang kan data yayo na kon Arabistens basta tapo pa kapara-para mo ang narairwa inarandabakan tayo.
Later the banana come out na ko rin kaban. Dami mo ra tan mo yung Adventist Hope inanon the bakan tayo. Ay dali giran sa tayo naron na kam para norian de bakan tayo pon pasta Duana. Ay manara ara missionary era in man yon isbangan ara wakin te teror ligira to the family life. May busy. Ay sibi man nawa na ligi pasta Duana kayo. Yan gawin nan siguro isipin mo ano iginagi basta tuan ayon busy ispangan specify bukin deusu kangang ay ka tinato diri kinaman ayan usu ay ka ko nire ke marun aro yate inanon deusu karo asina de mountain basta tuan ang tayo sila ni purey musmaya ari ibon na natay na barin kakao itong bati kamasan nilising kami yon manano radio namata ko dayan pamura kesin kana ko tayo ayo natay rin ang tawroy nangayon natay na kuira tanora tan mata ko tayo nano bayira sirak yon na kongray nun tayo kasandam ang kanyang tay tinanon tayo basta doon ay ginagi ang busy isbangan ayo si ginagi de kari sa Facebook nan na namutan na ko titaw der para na ba basta tuan ay sende Iroun na meter ni kanina ni tatawda kay mungkin at tawda kan busy mungkin kinakin sepangan amin ni naman tayo ay ya kita tatakin ay mungkin kakawagin teusu amda bawan kanere tatakin ni naman tayo we welcome Pastor Duana again to the afternoon session and we are very privileged to have you again Pastor Duana.
Amen.
And we pray that the Lord will bless us as we hear your message again, and also to answer questions this afternoon. Thank you very much.
We are part of the family.
Kung ngayon ay tuso ay ka sipani, mena inanon jataye.
All of us are members of our family.
Ngayon ay kain kabane, sipani hindi kiba kain tuso.
And from the start, I'd like to say that marriage is God's idea.
Ni mona kinay ay kan mona natiro mo mga kangay pa timari bunda na kantan nga Jesu.
If it comes from God, then marriage is sacred.
Manano na ba ina ko mayroon Jesu ano nang kanne timari kiti yey tipay ay itam akak.
We don't just play around with marriage.
Shagi kang Amerika ngaria tawagi deyey mew.
Today there are kind of marriages that we have. People just living together and say they are married. But that's not marriage according to God.
Buong ay kayo yarang gura kanga angwa daginan na riyan konas yey ni yey demari de magan situan mga segroy ali demari ali ina ko mayroon Jesu.
As we going to discover, because it comes from God, it is clean.
Ang kanano na ba stagin na ba diba yan ako mayroon Jesu abon diba yan ay nisyak
It is also a blessing.
abon de punja kakabayan na ba nakoy na.
And because it is a blessing,
Ay
First-
na ba punja kakabayan nakoy na.
it be a blessing to the husband and wife.
Ibon dia na bandi ke ba te kakabaya imaranan ya tang
To the children
nakoy nasiya
and the community.
nakon te kawa kita ta boris menay
Blessing to the church
te kakabaya nakon te karisa
and to the nation.
nakon te boris menay
It is really a blessing to be married.
anne aran kakawak ibukin te yey
And one thing about marriage we should realize that marriage is for life.
Duana te bai aran kakawak de yey ke te mare poni bukin te bai aran kona sikwa kinda ni karo kwa te kakawak ibukin te meu anano na ni karo kwa te mat.
We don't say, well, we just give it a try for 6 months or 9 months or 1 year, and if it works, then we will get married. If not, then we just go our own way.
Ata siguna ni kanta ni kangay pa to sisiyain to siya nuwad din ang makaino ay mina sa mangkaraw aris ta ko pasikan karoy.
It is for life. If you don't want to have it for life, don't join the club.
Ane te bayaran ni kakawag ibugin naura aris mina inano nang kanano na ba siguna ni karawan irori asiya mo yari.
And because it is your choice, it is very important because getting married is a decision that you have to make.
Ngay ibugin siriyay ni karoy matirin na ni at karaw roy ay irain kakawag ba sinabon ni karaw roy ni bayri ay main na ris karawa nanon na yun.
It is allowed for us to get married.
Siberin kariya ka ba inayay temare ke teyay.
And it is a choice
Punteri na rin.
to get married or not.
Ba onayay ni ke kunak.
If I believe if God said, thou shalt get married,
Ay kakwawa ba kanano na ba ikangay te tirongo
and
sinagi yayin taon na naswat Yeswa.
when something wrong with our marriage, we blame God because you said we need to get married.
Parang kanano na ba sita ko ba sagi karawan na nun na yo roy na kunari kanta ni ngaki awan sinaria ini yang oya patera ro ingkan te paya kanten ngai deso ibukin dai.
But getting married is your choice. The choice of one you love, you want to get married to, that's your choice.
Ma te yein bondari nerine ane bondana be bayri te manda mate manda.
And if anything wrong, you are to be blamed because you making the choice.
Ang kanano na bayay te paya irigi nanon tain te yein ane kona pun punungwe ako na menino na pare ane kwasan dinaya.
To get married, it's God's idea.
Mayari te yein bondana anakantan nga teso.
We don't just live together and have children without getting married.
Sakin na ka nga si yein sikarigiya na sila awaya yan na pati yein kita mare.
Let us look at the first wedding in the Bible.
Sanora atagin na te paipara na koiran.
And that from that marriage, we can know how to go about marriage today.
Ate marian si kona nori apa terabukin ang kayay te yein nanen te bungay.
The Bible says that in Genesis 2 verse 7, God formed man out of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostril the breath of life, and man became a living soul.
Atagin na ginanon tirong ba karika ki jamata men bubun nantano ari te man eu ka teke gini meu na kono non pangapangan pairin.
So man was created first.
Ayari te man karika ki mo.
And then God said it's not good for man to be alone in Genesis chapter 2 and verse 18 to 22.
Atagin na ki ba kiriya ba na sigu jamata anin singaya naru na atagin na ki karika ni ba te makurumuwa.
I'll create him a partner,
Atagin na ki ba emang karika ki Duana
a helper.
at sa bogya.
And so he called Adam.
Yara nagi ba Adam the helper.
Yeah. Adam, sit down, and the wind was blowing, and Adam fell asleep.
Ngayon ganang karika ki buka kinan tu Adam evite Adam ka masuwak.
And he took a rib from Adam's side,
Yana tirin ko jay na Maiu na
stitched it up again,
emang ko karon tirapatari
and
esan
Adam left.
enako Adam
And God created Eve from that bone.
Adam ikarawa ni Eva man tiri yari.
And he brought Eve to Adam.
Ikaira ni Eva na kun Adam.
And when Adam saw Eve, he wondered and surprised.
Nge enora ni Eva Adam mai imimi na nona ayran ko benam.
And he just said, this is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh.
Ayataw ayo pundin diu aboni diko ni diko.
And God officiated their marriage.
Jesua dirate ba yakaro yan tatayari yakaro na ba ayamerin tatayari.
And God said, for this reason, a man will leave his father and his mother, cleave to his wife, and they shall be one.
Ito ko na tayo Jesua ayo bugin ang kay di mani nakita na tama na masina na jamata inanim mabuna.
They were married then by God.
Amerin kan ni matan Jesua.
And the next verse said, male and female were naked, they were not ashamed.
Ito kina ginanon tiki buwan ba ingan kya karabeya maki mama merinay.
So it is important to note that getting married biblically is between a man and a woman.
Nangayari sinata yan ba inanon te pay para ba timare. Ito kina kinta tayo bunsi merinan te mane atyain.
Today people are getting married with the same sex, man versus man and ladies versus ladies.
An buong ay kayo, yung mga rokotawa kaya po, mani ang mga meron mani, o ay na meron main.
That is not biblical.
Sa gani, ay kung akin tapay para, sa gani kanuan tapay para.
If God had planned for Adam to have a husband with another man, he would have created Steve and Adam.
Tawag gano'n na ba, anakatan ng ayod diyatwa, bahay ng karikakirikit yung mani, bahay mga yun matam, dahil inaran nagba Steve, datayari.
But it is clear that God created another woman called Eve, and they were married with Adam.
Bahay po nang dire-dire tapay para, ba, yung mga karikakit yan, yaran na ni Eva, bayangan na rin, ito aroy, matuwari, tin natam.
A very important note that I'd like to stress here.
Ayran kakawag yan, na katayan, katuruturuan kan na ayo.
When God created Adam,
Diyatwang kaya karikatam,
There was no one around. Eve was not created then.
Agia ka ni kan kan. Ponsiya ta mari kari ka kita
The
tayo.
only face that Adam saw first was God.
Ma ponsi inori atam ta yari ponsi ta tu.
And I challenge every husbands
Ai ka ngayon ka ba ni mane ka kain na ba.
to take time to look at God's face first every morning.
Ai rang ka ngayon rura mane ba. Gato mo ni ngabong sinanura ta tu. Inanun ba.
Before you undertake your work,
Mane ako na kun maguri.
before you go places,
Ay mane ako na kun tapo ko na ko
then
yai.
when the family wakes up, they see a different dad.
Mari kana eusun ta yana inanura te karwa emang kokoro ya bu.
A dad that is helpful, that is cheerful.
Te karwa ai rang ni bobo te karwa ye Iroun na te kawang wan dai na.
And I must stress also to the wives.
Kawag ba na nakawangay na bang kami ay numa.
God was only by himself creating Eve. Adam was away.
Ba ge karawag ni yewa ge karika ni yewa awag ya tamikan.
So the first face that Eve saw was God.
Ayari ni yewa ge esan karika kita tayari monoria ni yewa pun tiatuana.
And I also put it to you, the best for you mothers, wives, look at God's face first in the morning.
Ang kami na bahay ng tatayo kete ay nanuman tatayo tara mo tiaswan tayo no demo ni ngapong kurak.
What a difference it would make in your family as you talk, communicate to each other.
Tara na bahay ko na meruro gini mabum tatayan demo ni ngapong an.
And when the children wakes up, they see a different mom.
Ang kana ausa tayo anura sinaya irain ko ako rin ngapong
A
an.
mom that is smiling and not complaining or speaking loudly.
Ba sinaya yaki mga ngurungure yaki mga tatakaruan ti ngapong an.
Will speak kindly to the husband.
Etegi ni bay karing daroy na kun buna
It makes all the difference when we take a first look for Jesus every day.
yang anira kandan ngaring tamaro kana sinora Yesu de bonga kurak.
I want to stress an important point here for young people,
Ay kan ikaw ngayon kami de diroron dikira ke tatay.
especially for the young girls.
Diking kami ay ne.
Note,
Yang o yaroy
when God created Eve,
de atu ang kekari ka ni Yewa
God took her to the man.
kaira ni Yewa na kun de maniari.
I challenge you, you must wait until your parents take you to the boy.
Ayari ikaw ngayon kami ay nen tatay nen tayo tatani nga.
Give to your parents and to allow them to take you in church to get married.
Ane de pantang ira irangin kakawak ay irangin bonga na ay irangin kakanda to. Ay nakairo ko tamam. Inanon de umantam na kun de wari de man.
God is a very busy God.
Owa jadwa imon de mais baye ka ikroye ka sta ko ba. Pinakuna Iaon mais sinaristo ko pa siya ngoy.
He's looking after everything in the universe.
Taray bahay ka ba ng John Nabay?
But he took time to take Eve to Adam.
Ma iyanagyan na tayo. Iroun ni Yewa awatam.
The next note I want to stress here to all the wives.
At kawawan pa yaring kakawag yan na suwangiya ay nanuma.
You were created for a purpose.
Ang karikag ibugin ay
You were created for a purpose.
karikag bayay bugina.
Maybe to provide that fellowship.
Ako na nga kanga titiritak.
And what's happening now? Are you providing that fellowship that husbands need?
Desiragin ti bakantayay. O karawaan na kun kaya niya pa detayay.
The next point I'd like to stress here, men.
Kawaway kan kagin na kayo na kung may mani.
Just note where Eve came from.
Kunataya ba ina ko may yan ni Eva.
Eve was not created from the bone of the foot
Karikag ma taman ti rindra
to be kicked, to be treated as a doormat.
Pai na tayo na ina pusboro agi kita ina kono kete ba Iaon ka ngairun te kiere mai metan diaus.
God created her from your side, from the rib, close to your heart.
Ayari na ye sakita pa inta ba yakarika ki mai ilarikin brom.
To be loved,
Ba ina tangiraki.
to be protected,
Ba na kawa kinagiroy.
to be treasured.
Ba ina pai na kapate pai ni kakawa kaya mo te kakawa.
I hope no dad will try and abuse the wives today.
Au kantan nga ba kami mane tayoka tay pai ni kini ya bumi ay kain.
Paul says in Ephesians chapter 5, husbands, love your wife as you love yourself.
Ay etakin na Paulo na ko yebeto kain na ba ka mane tangiri ya bumi na yerum kubun tangiri ko buniro.
Anyone loves himself will feed and clothe and cherish. That's what we need to do to our wives.
Awan kana kubun tangiri ko ibunirom ko tangiri ako na marake ko tangiri ako na anoy koroy ko tangiri na karawa kaya tamaro na ko yung tayo. Awan ni tangiri asiri na kana ba na kun kain na ba.
If marriage comes from God,
Kana tangiri te mari na ko mayroon diat.
we must work with God
Siria ini maguri mediatua.
right from the start.
May muana.
That is to young people,
Riki na kuya ay ka teron ni kirake.
the young man and the young woman.
Ay ka teron ni kirake. Atay ni mani, atay na ini.
You need to start with God when you start looking.
Kuria ini muana amwagi mediatua kay kwa muana am taratara.
When you forming that friendship,
Kay kwa ben kangan niyang wa teka kindeita kaya kakinan.
you still need God when you get married.
Koti mato ni kay no diatua ke kwa yey.
After marriage, you still need God
Minde yey ni kete mare o kay na no na mediatua.
to keep that marriage intact.
Pa kuna kati matoa te yey nan.
In the Bible,
Bay bara
Psalms 127:1.
ay daginagi tayo nero tumbo ko mesuwa ko na tuwana.
If the Lord is not the builder of our house,
Kana Joshua sakite sakadide na raus
the efforts of the workers are useless.
nagitan maguriyay akia mani.
So we need to start with God
Nakayari sila ni mo na maguri mediatua.
to get married.
Pa sina kuna American yey ni yey.
And we need Him to keep us married.
Sikay na noya pa inabugira inanon tawag te America kete yey.
There are many things I'd like to talk about in regards to marriage.
Rain mai sabay ka ikari maruruwa kini ka ikari ke ba te America.
They said getting married is not finding the right one.
Ande bata yastak ba te America. Kanga yagi ke ba unia kinare te ari bondiay ari te man.
But being the right one.
Ma etaginagi onariyay ni mena mari bondiay.
And I challenge young people,
Ay ka ungaira teron kiragi
you prepare yourself.
katawran kami roy.
Don't worry about him.
Tayo
Girl.
ramay rona.
Don't worry about her.
Tayo ramay ron nire.
You must prepare yourself as a marriage material.
Boy, ako na riyan katawroy ko. Patibay ni yay.
We need to learn to be a good wife and a good husband.
Siriyay day pa ngaira ay ka puntan tanihin ka tani mari ay ka ako kwaworoy.
Proverbs chapter 31 and verse 10.
Teka na ba kaw tiripi matiwan at tigam tabuina.
Who can find a virtuous woman?
Anday ako na ni kunya jay ni aroy.
She's more expensive than rupees.
Ibubuwa ka rin ako ni bahay kasi kantan nga ibabubuwa.
In that chapter 31 of Proverbs, they talk about this kind of good woman.
Imuan tiki buwan kaya tirong rong teka ginagaron kanga aroy ay ni karoy.
Looking after her family.
Ay tararuan ako su.
Wake up early.
Eusin the morning nga.
Prepare their meals.
Katawro at yamarak.
Prepare their clothes.
Katawro at Jonia.
And that's the kind of woman that was needed now.
Awan teka kita ini askay na nuyang kay.
A woman who really dressed the inner being.
Diyan ay ikawa kinaroi ari nanona at the maro.
Not just the outside.
Siya si kata maro ang sinanukuna.
And First Peter 3, 1 to 5 says, don't worry so much about the care of the hair outside.
Ay dahil kita mo ni Peter te makuro tenua at ako tayo na dairang na rame kinari arun te kabayan teira matera arun te jamat.
You must concern about the inner being.
Onariya intarari nanon jamat.
That cloth is very acceptable to God.
Pa anroi dunia bukin te atu.
And that cloth does not wither or go bad.
Jaka kindunia niya kikuna ni mga taragi pa ina darabuaka. Ito matua
That is respect,
pa yay kanina rin yay yay
humbleness.
tinanurino yay
And this is a commitment.
yay kikuna hindi sina kuni karawa.
This is the clothes that ladies need to prepare themselves.
Ande te dunia ay ilan kakawag iron tiyain.
Boys need to control their temper.
Mane kataya bay na totoo na kinano.
We sometimes think, men, that we can overrule.
Ay rasita ko ba mane kanga ay bundani bay rin ang bay ni kapan.
But Bible says if you control your temper, you are much stronger than a person who conquer a city.
Ang ay ate kinanon tayo ba kana jamat ang kuya ako na ni bay na totoo na kinano. Kuya tuwari kinakon jamata. Arita ko ba na ko na nuriana ko ti.
This is what girls you need to look for in a man.
Ani te bay tiyain ni kuriya intaray ron te man.
That girl who is hardworking,
Pa tiyain ni ane te samaguri ngwe tiyain ko na tara te man ane pa te samaguri roy.
is hospitable, loving.
Yay kang karawan na iriya intayin na kulo na te tangira.
And a young man who works hard.
Ngayon tayo ni man samaguri kora
That is something very important
ane te bay siriya ni yang
to keep the family working hard.
Kasi na rin kati meto at te usu na nun te maguri kora.
You need to look after yourself physically.
Sinataruay rapataruay yay kay kamerungi.
Many young men are not concerned about their health.
Eray ni mais tero ni kira kaya kita be merungi nan te yay.
They just drink anything, they just eat anything.
Amara kaya amoy nakakinibay ay ka atakubakan kaguri.
They just want to have fun every weekend.
Akatayan nkoroy nakakaroon mabay ka arosi merungi yay doon kato weekend.
Getting drunk.
Ako rin ni manging
Note, look after physically your body.
yang uyaroy tararuaroy dapatam.
And I'm surprised that sometimes girls are taking the time to look after the young men after they got married because he's sick.
Ito ko ba nito ba yung kawag? Pa, kanano na po ko yun, ina po nang may siya ng magulinirit siya, inang kanya, buo na rin irang atay, yung irang piyamontaran, waya, pari po siya.
Look after yourself mentally.
Niritaran wa, amiyang roy.
Learn as much.
Kataya, karikatiriri, nakundara ko na.
That's why we say go to school.
Ano po kinang kasikangay, nakundiriri.
Complete your school
Kabariyam riri mo,
before you start thinking of getting married.
manya ko yang wa, temari.
You need to look after your social life. Who do you associate with?
Rin kakawag na ba, kuna bay na ti, kuna yung warun ti rita kaya, kumini na na bante ako rita kita kaya.
Young men, friends that will lead you to good health and life.
Kataya, karikaya roro, may kanang kuna, ni kayo kuna kun, to, karawan, ta kamerung, ta meron tayo ko pa, kung ni merong yung andori mew.
And also our spiritual life.
Meura, grisa.
Very important.
Irang kakawag ti mew nurmek.
When a young man marries a Christian, they are happy.
Parang kana, tirurongan niya mga yin magtinay niya, ti grisan, anak ko kure.
And if they are not Christians, they are very unhappy.
Ang kanan na ba, ako kure yon mek, awan niya naki, langin ko kure.
Paul says in 1 Corinthians 6:19,
Ito ko na tayo ka, Pauro na kuya, Korinto, Timoni Korinto,
don't you know that your body is the temple of God?
Huwag ka tayo rapatan, punta na tempura at Yeswa.
You get it from Him, from God.
Hindi ka rapatan man, may Yeswa.
And you must glorify God because He says, and you are bought with a price.
Ang kayang kanyan, Irene kakawag ba, kung nakawag na rin na manya ba, irene ni buo-buo karon na pasya.
So glorify God in your body.
Mayroon ko rin niya po, tiyatuan na bata.
This is very important.
Irene kakawag ay,
We must look after ourselves
siriya yung tararway roy, dapat
physically,
napatara,
mentally,
narayang,
socially,
data kira,
and spiritually.
mauran, Christian,
You know, our world today has moved so fast.
aran na ba yung kay sa tayo, bayan ang kura-kura tipitak yan.
And the home is no longer a place where we can find safety.
Amo yung ara, yari ki baka ngay tatapong kaya, kangay, yay ko tauroy ng kanila, tsaka manuwak.
In the late 60s and 70s,
Tante, doon po yung kadesimi,
there were movement in the big place of America,
yay, diba yari yon, American tatayan,
where the young people challenged the parental guidance.
ay, dinanuro ni Kiraki, kaya vinakwaron sa kay Lili, ay kay Lili Karo.
They say to their fathers and mothers, we are big enough, we can make our own choice, you don't have to choose for us.
Awatok, sa ikaw ay, kita ko bakam ng kay Lili dan tayo.
And they move out from homes,
Awas na ko mo yung kaya,
and they live by themselves
abon ni mga kay Boniroya,
in parks,
dabon ay
in halls,
dabon ay kakibasan doon.
and it spread from cities to city, from Los Angeles to San Francisco, Chicago, all over America.
Eri kayo, nabanda ko, Amerika, dabon ay ako, Chicago.
They don't want to listen to parental advice.
Ay ko, kandong ko raya, ayakaro.
It spread to Canada, to Europe,
Ero ko ikanan tayo mga,
Australia.
nako, Europe, iyakani na ng Australia.
And this group are called the hippies.
Ara niya na kay denain ipis.
They have clearly identified themselves with long hair and bell-bottom trousers.
Ay ngayang kandan. Kakay po niya ni Raya, aw niya yan, tatayo arang tarani ko ako yan.
I happen to read stories about them in the late 60s and 70s.
Ay, iban wala ka rong ngoya, nakara niya pa denain ipis ay kay.
They just live and just choose which girl, which to have children.
Apon si karawan na pare, atang iriya, ari ni arian tayo, ari nakais po mga iya, temani kaya ini, aw nakarigi yaman, ayapon na kuya, ari apon tangi.
They say this is life. We make choice for ourselves by ourselves.
Awat apon te meway, pa pa ini kakasya, sabon karawari sabon tangiriya.
But in 1980s, another group,
But the one po tapon na mga wala kito
Grew
wala
up.
te group.
and then the group said, real life is not like our aunties, our mothers. They are living their lives like that in the hippies.
Ay ngayang kanan, nakay, dirati pa iya mga kanta ni ngaya kangay, emang ko ako rumaritin na may riyan natin may muwan natin.
You don't have to look down on somebody if he's not sleeping with anybody.
Ayan, kung nakita man ng kanano na bayaki, masumarite man na.
And they have a theme.
Ay, team na kay.
The theme spread around the world.
Ay, po to niyang wayo, iya na kung nakuntaan na ba.
And they said, we need to have sex only after marriage.
Kaya, ako ang kanya, po yung siriyay, te venen Taanga, po yung si min, te merin.
Thousands and millions of young people followed that.
Ay, erang ni may sayay ang kanya.
And their theme is, wait for the ring and then do the thing.
Ay, po to niyang una kaya, takutaya ka na. Tani nga, te mamanimeri, ako as bakarawa, te bayan.
So that is something I'd like to stress to young people.
Ang te bayay, ikan, kaungan ang kuya, ngayra, tero ni kiran.
Don't start sleeping around with anybody before getting married.
Tahilain katayan, ni venen na kaya kaka, ni karawa te makuri, ni venen ni bore, imain,
They have proved that those who've been sleeping around maybe more than 1-2 partners before they get married, it's likely that they're going to break up.
Esan kamate baya kag bahangi at kora kaya ke, akarawa ayo, ni venen ni bore, imain te mere, ate payari ki, ang injatay, ire kita kanganga, ante patay, ipo ni karikat tiraure.
So girls, look around. If that boy has been sleeping around, don't go with him.
Ngayari, ayo arang kawag na kuya ngayra kis tuay ni yayin injatay, kana kunura, tuwan ite mani ani ba, Desa kangai Iroun na kanga te kakarawan te venin te motor mani nagyakaka. Anya te kanikinano ko ma kita upa ko na yen mga yen.
And the same with you boys. If you know that there is a girl been sleeping around, avoid that girl.
Ayaron ko na ba te maning kaya ako sa na baniyen. Kanaro manya ko kukunya ba kaya te jaine ate sa bene ate sa karawa te magure ya kipa sa tamarwa. Nakakin te Taanga at hakin nakin tayo. Karoy man te mari kataya na ba. Tutukuan na ba niya pa kunaki di katasya.
If somebody start cheating during courtship, they will also cheat when they get married.
Kanano na ba yung jaman na esa ni karawa kang ate maguri kangan nikinano isinanukun na rin ang matatay pa kaya pundom iman te yen awani na pun tim na to na ba ni
Because
karoy
what-
kanakwa yen.
The boys will do, they compare number 3 to number 2, and then they want to try another number 4 because they are not satisfied with number 3.
Ang kaya po te yen ate mani anye ani nang mena na iyang yon dakan na ki yasan kangan bobo na ko mga iyang ko ngayari kanigang kan te kangang abubura.
Note, young girls,
Ngayari tay nay ne
you are the heartbeat of every mom and dad at home.
kami bon ikaiken buron taman masinam.
Don't allow anyone to be just using you as a property.
Tay kariya baka kunari baka nga te pa ingwe kanga kunakabuko na kiro yamata zero ya kiriyay.
And I pray for young men,
Ay tataro bukimin kami tay ni man.
don't just try and use girls.
Tay lang katayan niyang nguya baka nakabuko na ya
They are
tay.
not a property.
Siya kibahin na kiyakak.
They are children of God.
Akan niya na sintiyaso.
I want to remind you too,
Ay
And-
kanika ngayon kami
as I remind husband and wives,
kay ikaw rin niya Taanga.
both us, male and female,
Ngayon ay ka mani away ni
are God's children.
kung na sintiyaso.
God said, let us make man in our own image, of our own likeness.
Siya karoyo amata bayarora. Katutong ngira. Anya na tayo katyato.
So we must treat each other with love.
Nakayari siya ay kangan tangiriray bonirora.
Before we get married, you know that that girl belongs to God, God's child. So treat her like one.
Ayari manya ko kuyain matay niyan. Kun atayaroya jay niyan. Nasinda ba tiyatwa. Ina ni kakawag pasinakarinayray bonirora.
And when we get married, we will remember
Ang kanasayin na
he is God's child as well.
pasuri nga ni yen ne kituwan kung nasinda ba tiyatwa.
What a family to see that both husband and wives realize that they are each God's child.
Tirat, tusong kanano na ba, siya nuriya, pati mano jay ni, ang kawawa po nga iya nasintiyatwa.
Will not try and hurt her or him.
Agya, arika nga kung nakaroya pa, kung nakamera kayo ni Iri, kung nakamera kayo ito wari,
In any form.
nakakinak, kung nakaroya pa,
So,
karawan din maguriya.
marriage is God's idea.
Nakayari ito yen, kiti meri, kung na nakata ni
God does not give anything to us as His children that will spoil us.
Yatwa yak yang kanira, ngayra, awamata kena sina, baye ka sinakunan, nuruwa kiyay.
That is why I am pleading to you,
Ano bugin ang kaibon,
asking
kaungay
you,
kami, an bubusing kami.
as husband and wives,
Pa, kwe, tangan sa tayo, mano jay ni,
we must train up our child
siya hindi iya giniyaroy na sila.
by the way we live our lives as husband and wives.
Naron tayo ni Maura, ang ngayra, the money o jay ni.
They will want to live our lives because we have demonstrated the best that we can do for them.
Ani anakan Maura ginari, iroray mo ginaba, anuria, irom pwede ka rumetas.
So we conclude by saying,
Sa kainang kan, narataya ka kangay,
marriage is from God,
the mari mayroon di aswa,
then we must follow His way to having a family.
awan na rin sinabunin na ba na kaway, ibugin, kairara, nakon, narawso.
And living our lives because in marriage, God is still the head of the family.
Karon, Maura rin si Marinano na, dawsuhan, kung ibugin na ba, di aswa, ngaya, te sa kaira ya sun te moyang.
And young people will be able to pattern, follow us.
Teron ni kira ke anai rayo ke nasira anai rayo kana nora.
So that when they establish their home, they'll say, I'd like a home like my mother or like my father.
Anto te ya akate usuyai ane nakangai. Nakari ka usuayo paitangiria banari kinairon na usutamao.
And I think maybe I'll switch on to speak on more about young people.
Ata natata tu tanay bugia teron ni kira.
It is the time to get married is very important.
Tai korea ni mo kawak.
They have suggested that 23 plus years, then you better think of getting married.
Wabu imetenua diri kanganya tai ni na rang sikirot.
Therefore, I'm suggesting to all of you in high schools, don't bother about finding a boyfriend or girlfriend.
Ayarang kami nan jazz kun tai yo kanga itu ay rang ni buong kanya tai yare ay tai jay roro.
Because the Bible says there is time for everything.
Pare pun dagi na tai para yay tai ni bain kaban.
There is time to build, time to break down.
Yay tai na kajitay tai dururu.
And it's a time to be born and a time to die.
Tai de bugiyak tai temat.
The best thing is to wait for the right time.
Kaban ang damarwa tataningagin are pun tai roy.
At 23, you are almost at tertiary level.
What metenua diri kwa bando kun tinan ura gari.
And that's maybe best for you to look for a wife at then.
Anang kanya tai wakuna nikakaya kanya ba miya ko de manik.
But when you are at school, just concentrate on your study.
Kaya rin ako may nakangan din. Tsaka warinan, kaya ko, kabani amday, iyang muamuang kamatapay.
Your parents have sent you to school to gain an education.
Tamami masinami, kaya rin kami na kundirirey, ba, kamna, rirey, bugin, kariken, tsaka pay.
And therefore, you must just strive to study until you reach 23 plus.
Ano bugin ang kay siriyay, nigiyagin, karawan na kabani ang tamaro, bugin na kamatapay, ikaruwa, ikuro wabuy matinuwara niliki.
When you finish education, then you can think about someone. Then you can be able to care for your family. Because that is very important for us men. We must work to feed our wife and the children. Today we get a bonus because our wives are working. But first, men should feed the family. If you read the Bible, when God prepared Adam for marriage, Genesis chapter 2 and verse 15. The first thing that God did was prepare a home. And that is very important because when Eve came, the home was already there. The young lady, if the boy is talking to you, ask him where I'm going to stay when we get married. Am I going to live with your parents? When are we going to have our own home? Living by yourself in a home doesn't mean that you'll forget mom and dad. But living together is best because you cannot have two queens in one throne. The mother is the queen. The daughter-in-law too is a queen. But we know which one of them will be bullied.
Awani na poni buat jadai ni kangan ni keke busu an.
Therefore, if possible,
Ayari pon diay kanya pon diay.
it is best when you get married, live on your own home.
Pon ari ada kana kuai yain. Ari ada kuai busu ke poni ro.
Even if it's just a little hut attached to the big home.
Yari yang kana anu na pakanga to ati kanga ti jauh sa wari de kari kanga koto me nau sa ke amkarwa ke bubura.
Because the Bible is clear.
Pare pun takut apa ibar.
For this reason, a man will leave his father and his mother, house number 1.
Awan yang kanya bukin ang kebun jakin na apa ibar. Awayu bukin ang kena ina kita na tama na masina na jam.
Cleave to his wife, also left house number 2.
Ada kena kiai pa ina ni mabuna jama da anyang kanya jauh sa number 1 ay sa number 2.
And they shall be one.
Awan ari ko pasite iri ko.
That's a third home.
Awan ang kanya ay takati.
The more we follow the biblical method of marriage, the better for us.
Kana sira ro yan de meren de baibara ata meron ari kinahoy.
Maybe circumstances does not allow us to be separate in our homes, but the quicker we get to the biblical method, the better.
Ay nga yang kanya. Yan ka nga tabuway ka sinakunan ni kasi po mga ay bugin karigan. Maya nga kanano na pasikaroroy kanon na ritagin na baibara ay inabutan ti tamarwa na kun arawsu.
And the Bible says that his home was in Eden.
Itagin lagi pa ayo ti maya nga ri igeten ni tatayay.
I want you to know that we haven't heard that there are archaeologists already digging out some ruins of the Garden of Eden.
Wawa ka nga sitway rin nungon tatayo ari kinakin tatapo ari menayayeten.
To the Jews, Eden is not a place.
Pero ya yutaya eten ka nga siya kitatap.
It's just circumstances.
Ka nga punsi di yang mo yon baye karik.
They have about 5 strokes or 4 about Eden to the Jews.
Akan ito nimawa ta kantan nga yon na yon bugin kunakin tatapo.
It can mean sport,
Tayo kunan tagin kay ito tatapo.
moment,
Kita titay
open door,
kita timataro ari
access to heaven.
ibugin tarakin ti mga ari
That's what Eden to the Jews.
ane eden iroya kain.
Therefore, the boys should be one who wants to get connected with heaven.
Nangayari ngayon kawag mane ba ayo tatapo sinakunan nura yay karawa.
That is very important, girls. Find a man
Ayari kawag kunakin ti mane
who wants to have access to God,
kanano na ba wanura karawa Iroun.
because that only will help the family.
Awan ang kanya kay ni sila na konti mo yan.
And thirdly, the Bible says to work.
Ito ay ginanon di ba para sinamahol.
Men should work.
Mane sila yung mahol.
If you don't work finding employment, just hard work.
Anak wagi maguri to ang jobs kataya maguri kora-kora.
Maybe fish,
Kita
Fishing.
ati tiyakaw.
maybe planting,
Kita ati ununik
or whatever, but just work hard.
na maguri kora-kora.
I don't know if there are any queries coming with our topic.
Ta inabayan niya ka nga to bayi ka sikaden ngayon man ara maruro dito ay
Then we must allow that.
sina kadigayan mo yun dito ay.
Thank you, Pastor Duana. Hindi, ito tayo ay, kanano kayo rin panaw, romi kami ang mora, ay, di sila kingkan niya, kang ay, irukot ang kan niya, yon, kan de meon tang, de meon dosu, o, ayun kan niya, di sila kimero ito, kora kaya nga, apo na wa, ki usu ya ba, yan ako naman ay sinan ko, ay, iso ko timan na, igay, yon, kiribas, di sila kingkan niya, ba, iya ita ka nga ito na, anuri yan na ba ito kora kaya ba, tapi tayo, yay di Taanga, ang mga tatangira, jadaw tami mayroon doy ang titira doon, pinariyan ko tarapatan na gito, ang detay doon na matuon. Okay? Toy bugin na ang man missiniya matuwa, titiya ka gito, tumana kitiyain ito, erang kanura rapatan doon, ane ka tira arun na nga nitiran dito aking kain, di maruro ayo, nga tira aron noran ta nga ba ye ataw ba nga ye ka amuan nan nan ko ra ye amuan nan mo nga bo ye makan da tayo baterati ka nga advice de ta ni bobok ni teranan. There's a question from one of our viewers concerning two partners separating. Yeah? One lives in Kiribati, the other overseas. Sometimes the partner, one partner, may miss the other partner and would like her or him to show herself or himself, take a video or live recording of naked. Or, some of them feel very uneasy about this and they would like to get some counsel from you on this, Pastor.
There is nothing that is hidden when we put on the Facebook. You may delete, but that picture is with Google. So therefore, you must take the chance.
Ayan, ito ba tayo kawag? Agad ba yara ba? Yon Facebook. Kung na delete, may sense ko yon kuko.
And we've experienced this in Fiji.
Ayo asinori ay busy.
There are nude pictures of children.
Yay tamo ya da ye ka agroire ye ke to abibi kan gaya ra gi.
Strong in Fiji. What about?
An ren ka kawag ibukin this one yon busy bukin kamen wa ya da.
And those pictures, although they may delete in Fiji,
ingeng ke denan tamo ya kan akame unagi yon the Facebook.
it's not deleted with the Google.
Ayaki meuna ba asigumiya iroya nage imena iroya.
And for us in Fiji, the Google will send the picture back to Fiji and say, you deal with that picture.
Ngayon bugin deswari si siporo ye bisi ma kambanan data kay yamang ko kita mo kay aswangira katay yang ko ya badera de bay irigin damo ya de kay yan ay kay damo ya kasi asugundara nara dira de tayo yon nara pay na ko kay.
I think there is real need when husband and wives are separated.
Daw ba wonte kainan wa irain kainan no de bayay ke wonte join kainan wa mana kon de dirari de diranta.
If they are comfortable,
Kanan na ba to miyang royay
agreeing
ba apuro yay
to take nude pictures for themselves, then they have to make the choice.
kanan na bari ri puni marina yatang bari sa ki marina yatawantay puni marina yatang kanapun puro yay e pun na ko yan na yer ni rin.
In whatever circumstances, both should agree. Sometimes if some other partner is uneasy, then maybe take it easy.
Bari ren ka kawag ba na uta bari to kanan na patiman na yakiran andari kangan miyang royay tarori na ana pun karawan yang ko yapa ingari kaya kangan namang karoya.
Because I have stated, that picture won't be deleted. It will be there forever when Google has it.
Bari iruya na ki kanga imena iruya minta yan pa inda ba ko ka yengan kaya meuna tayan damo yakan ama yabon si ko iruya.
I think that's about all I can say on that.
Ana kanga kakakinan tayo.
Ay rarbo Pastor Duana de kaya kano ida ba era wag na banon ko yan ko kwasanta bakatis sila kyan na kun Pastor anda tayo kanon pa puni ina pam sa sila king ko ya ko mata kun tayo ay era kakawag tayo kanon puni ay pa ka to wag yang wan ka matatam Iroun Pastor Duana bukan na banta pekya ko na commenting kay tayo ay na Facebook page yan na Adventist Soap as wag yang kay live ko konan gore am comment ya ko kasi sila kinapanganan ng commentan basta nakunan ko sa mga ano ba kuha ki online ma kung oran radio ko na interpon na pan ako nara ara studio ay pun mew na bang kay yung oran ba daratara ko na yon denam ba isuwa wa ke o to wana ake tinwa ke isuwa wa ke o to wana ake tinwa ke sinang atutan ng kandidatay, bugin din sila, mga nanapagyan sinang tauroy ng kandidatay, kakainan na pang kandidatay kanon na maruro, datay ayo, kaya pandang po na pas, sinang kakaitaw na manakong pas, Duana. Sa nga, tutan na datay na ko'y mi, aratan, matak ko, yung ginabang kayo sila, sa kau ginabang kayo ang document, naroon kaya kung ulitin na commenting kayo, no sinapan ng the page yan, kaya kung matak ko, kupon ko rin na pa am sa silaging anin, dataw na pa saan uri na bangan may kayo, sa tabi kaya na bangan na kon, sa tete aras pikan tatay ayo pasta Duana ano ba yay orang terpon na pare suwa wake wo to wana aket chen wake kanon tiya wa ayo ngan katawan ngo ngaya sibun kamana na amawan dawan ngo ya ko minayan kai nambarakin kaya American datawan ngo yo mga yare ang kaya to ko minana ban bunian batam ngora na to ko ngora yo sinang busmay ko na pa anda tayo ayo kana pa puni yam sa sila mga na wato kairang ni mata tan dano puno po di maruro anda tayo ay akin na ba taka sa kanako daw tanang anda tayo daw tuwan na minutes wo minutes akin kos okay sa muskana pangan ngano na maruro anda tayo kurang dara parik sa kanako ngano na kon di studio ba kanako to korana kanako ba beniten ni an sa kanako na pangan di tiram kapanyan di maruro anda tayo makainan ng Maria aratan maruro pasta Duana represents pasta tapwa inanon tatawan ko yan sa bubusi ko di studio ko kanako dito ko na may kanne ya busi ko kanako na pare we are the people ba sa nga sinakana ko na ko yato po ng mga matanda tayo ay ngayon at nota na kontyon na pa adiki na kon kiribas ay sipunin man na ba yan kanta nga as pa niya kina kiribas for Christ pa ni kapan sinang penin na nga ngayon ka ni kiribas na kon Kristo para pa the studio sa kanako na ko mo kanako ito ko na naan we are the people mayroon duwari kalise Bob kalise ay mina sakay na para maruroyo ano pa ito sila sakay tabi kaya nga ni minan erap